Off the coast of Vancouver Island, around 100 kilometers west of the University of British Columbia, there exists a relatively recently discovered earthquake source, the Cascadia Subduction Zone. This earthquake source is almost 1,000 kilometers long, spanning from northern California to Vancouver Island. The Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquakes are commonly referred to as the Big One, since this earthquake source is capable of producing large magnitude earthquakes, as large as magnitude 9. To put things in perspective, there has only been 5 earthquakes in the last century of magnitude 9 and above. Having said that, the southwest British Columbia is also exposed to 2 other types of earthquake source: crustal earthquakes and deep intraslab earthquakes, both of which can produce smaller earthquakes but more frequently than the Cascadia Subduction Zone. But we are primarily interested in understanding the impacts of a Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquake on our building infrastructure and community resilience. With that, I'd like to take you back to 1700, when a 1,000 kilometer long wave struck the coast of Japan, causing problems in the coastal communities of the country. This was long before seismic events were scientifically recorded in the Pacific Northwest. But Japan, being an earthquake and tsunami prone country, started monitoring tsunamis starting 599 AD. The Japanese scientists knew that earthquakes cause tsunamis, but no one really felt the ground shaking that preceded this particular tsunami. Since they could not identify the origin of the tsunami, they called it as the orphan tsunami. The orphan tsunami later was found out to be caused by a major earthquake in the Pacific Northwest region due to the rupture of the Cascadia Subduction Zone. This was also corroborated by stories from oral history of many First Nation communities in the region. Only in the late 1980s, scientists realized that the Cascadia Subduction Zone is an active earthquake source and can produce large magnitude earthquakes similar to the one that caused the orphan tsunami. Due to the relatively recent discovery of this earthquake source and unavailability of quantitative observations of ground motion shaking during a Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquake, how this source will rupture in the future and its implications on the infrastructure of the region is largely unknown. The Metro Vancouver region also sits on top of Georgia Sedimentary Basin, the one that you see in the figure here, where the warmer colors are representing greater basin depths. This basin can amplify ground motion shaking in the region, adversely affecting the infrastructure. But the current National Building Code of Canada and the National Seismic Hazard Model do not explicitly consider the Georgia Sedimentary Basin and its effects on the seismic hazard of the region. This is where my research is trying to answer questions about expected ground motion shaking during a magnitude 9 Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquake and its implications on the vulnerabilities of existing tall buildings in the region and post-earthquake recovery. We leverage a set of physics-based simulated magnitude 9 Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquake ground motions developed by the University of Washington and the United States Geological Survey with explicit consideration of the Georgia Sedimentary Basin. We use the same set of ground motions to estimate the expected level of basin amplifications in the region. Metro Vancouver is the third largest metropolitan area in Canada. Among the multifaceted risk that faces this region, the concentration of tall buildings and infrastructure raises questions about risks to life, property, and recovery from large magnitude earthquakes. Although tall buildings are not the only structures at risk, they are of special concern due to their susceptibility to large magnitude subduction earthquakes. Among the tall building stock in the region, there exists a significantly large number of seismically vulnerable pre-1980 reinforced concrete shear wall buildings, and the vulnerability of which is compounded because of the basin amplification due to the Georgia Sedimentary Basin. We are developing state-of-the-art numerical models to understand the estimated expected level of seismic performance of this pre-1980 reinforced concrete shear wall buildings. We select representative archetype building models based on a machine learning based predictive model leveraging existing database of such buildings. We are also working with the city of Vancouver to incorporate these building models in a neighborhood level seismic risk assessment to understand the impacts of the vulnerabilities of these existing tall buildings in the community at large. We are particularly interested in understanding the post-earthquake recovery of the populated West End neighborhood of the city of Vancouver with explicit simulation of the recovery of the tall buildings in this neighborhood. This collaboration with the city of Vancouver is really exciting and very crucial as the city is drafting a seismic policy to reduce seismic risk in the city. This effort complements the Resilient Vancouver initiative. This research will help navigate critical questions about basin amplifications, seismic risk of tall reinforced concrete shear wall buildings in exploring various policy interventions. We hope that this research will help communities residing in this region take a step further in preparing and mitigating seismic risk from a future Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquake, like the one that occurred 320 years ago, causing the orphan tsunami. Thank you.